Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mehak,
Hi, I'm Natasha.
and today we're going to talk about our experiences building Terrascope, which is a SaaS platform that measures carbon emissions. So, how did Terrascope really come into being? Measuring carbon emissions is a fairly complex process, with less than 90% companies actually being able to measure their emissions and further have very limited knowledge in moving from measurement to creating impact. Data gathering is convoluted, error prone, and time consuming, with error rates as high as 40%. Even with the best of intentions, only less than 15% companies are actually able to reduce their emissions. Add to this web of complications, companies are now mandating, governments are now mandating companies to file for ESG reportings, and a lot of them struggle with it. So, this is the premise within which Terrascope was founded. So, what is Terrascope? It's a smart carbon measurement platform that is powered by data science and machine learning to get the right data and focus action on areas that actually matter and have a sizable impact, and also improve accountability within various levels of the organization. Now, let's look at how carbon emissions are actually calculated. So carbon accounting is based on GHG accounting, greenhouse gas accounting, and this essentially divides a company's carbon emissions into three categories: Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. So Scope 1 emissions are all of those emissions that are generated from company-owned and controlled resources. So this includes fuel combustion on site, air con leaks, etc. And scope 2 are all of those emissions that come from electricity purchased by the company. So anything that is used to power, emissions that come from anything that's used to power anything within the company is what counts for scope 2 emissions. Finally, there's scope 3 emissions, which are all other indirect emissions that occur from resources that are neither owned nor controlled by a company. So it happens all across the company's value chain. These are further divided into 15 different categories, as you can see in the diagram, and include things like water and waste management, business travel, and procurement. This makes up a sizable chunk of any company's carbon footprint and arguably the hardest to measure. So how does Terrascope really work? A company's activity data is gathered from its operational, financial, and supply chain teams. And this data is then pre-processed by Terrascope's amazing team of DAs, data analysts, and ingested onto the platform and then categorized into the three different scopes. Once the data is ingested onto the platform is when the magic begins. Terrascope's machine learning algorithm matches the activity data with the emission factors that are on the database to produce accurate carbon footprint results. And this process is iterated and refined until data granularity is achieved and enough scopes are covered. So you can see the outcomes on the screen here. So this is what the visual is like when the carbon footprint is calculated. So it's visually represented, and you can see the emissions being divided according to scope. You can double down on emission hotspots, which are activities that contribute to the maximum emissions. And you can see where the emission intensity is really high. Also, there's a bar at the bottom where you can see the confidence levels of each of this being calculated. So essentially, Terrascope enables companies to get all of their sustainability data on one common platform, and that becomes the single source of truth. And this helps companies align themselves with the various departments and actually benchmark against different companies. What Terrascope also allows you to do, which is arguably one of its best features, is do scenario modeling, which is an if this, then that analysis. So that really enables the sustainability users at an organization to understand the impact of changing around things within the supply chain that could lead to a high impact and a reduction in carbon emissions. So from there on, they can actually focus their efforts and create actions that would then contribute to a clearer roadmap towards achieving their sustainability goals. And lastly, all of these visuals can be customized and repurposed according to internal and external audiences and be used for reporting. So it helps solve a lot of the issues that arose within the sustainability conundrum that we talked about earlier. So this is a little bit about the 6 different streams of work that we did at Terrascope. So the measure pod was focused on building out all of the features on the platform and reiterating based on user feedback. Reduce is the scenario modeling aspect of Terrascope, which allows users to arrive at the most appropriate mix of energy resource, region, country mix, etc. That would actually help forecast macro changes within emissions. Implement was where Natasha and I worked. It was about actually taking the product to market with Terrascope's clients. Data platform focused on building frameworks that made the ingestion of emission factor databases easier. AWS workstream, which was working to make the platform cloud agnostic. And finally, a data science team, which is constantly working towards achieving a better accuracy on the ML algorithm and providing opportunities and providing recommendations where the abatement potential was really high. So now we're going to talk about a few case studies where we helped organizations reduce their carbon footprint using Terrascope.
Thanks, Mehak. So, all right, let's delve into what Terrascope really did, right? So let me start my story. In the heart of Asia Pacific, we had a prominent beverage manufacturer who embarked on a quest to get environmental enlightenment, right? So their mission was basically to unravel the intricacies of their carbon footprint, a quest that began with a significant knowledge gap. While they were diligently able to measure their direct or their scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, the elusive scope 3 emissions remained hidden in the shadows, accounting for a staggering 85% of their carbon footprint. The challenge lay in their operations and supply chain as their facilities spanned across continents. Right? What made their supply chain a true enigma was the diversity of the products that it encompassed. 1, products that was meticulously crafted in their own facilities. 2, products that had imported ingredients and were sent off to OEMs in distant lands. 3, finished products that were imported whole and ready for distribution. So between this intricate dance of product and ingredients, there was one critical element that was missing, right? The emission factors deconstructed at a product level. Now, to uncover the reality, what you had to do was deconstruct these finished products into their elemental ingredients and their manufacturing process. Now, this was a painstaking endeavor, really, akin to like decoding a cryptic manuscript. So, like the Avengers assembled to tackle a formidable foe, Terrascope and Thoughtworks joined forces, right? The complexity of the data, scattered across numerous facilities in diverse formats, demanded a Herculean effort. Data had to be gathered from various supplier platforms. You had to fill the gaps using benchmarking and estimation techniques, all while leveraging the capabilities of machine learning to deconstruct the finished product and expedite the analysis process. So what happened? In a mere astonishing feat, we were able to finish the carbon accounting exercise within 3 weeks. This was 5 times faster than the arduous manual method employed previously by the beverage manufacturer, right? The platform, just like Harry Potter and any sorcerer, was able to liberate valuable time and resources, which was formerly taken by data wrangling, and offered a scalable solution as compared to their traditional method. Also, Terrascope's team of data wizards unearthed remarkable insights that illuminated the path to supply chain optimization. They revealed that in a world of carbon emissions, packaging played a starring role. So for instance, take a 500 ml bottle of cola, right? If you break it down, 130 grams of carbon were actually attributed to the packaging, overshadowing the 34 grams that was coming from its ingredients. Wow. The largest emissions didn't stem from the products themselves. It was actually the packaging, and particularly the shrink wrap that was being used for the cans was responsible for 82% of the emissions, right? Terrascope didn't stop there, right? They conjured multiple scenarios for the beverage manufacturer to see how you can explore alternative sourcing methods for eco-friendly packaging. This example was great, right? Because it offered the beverage manufacturer a panoramic view of their supply chain, uncovering the hidden sources of emissions and paving the way for impactful reductions. So, in another captivating tale of supply chain optimization, right? Telescope partnered with an agri-product trading firm in Japan that was dealing with importing a number of goods. Talk about coffee, cocoa, edible oil, nuts and spices, right? But this journey took an unexpected turn when Telescope's platform revealed a path to reducing emissions. How, you'll ask me? So the platform facilitated the creation of two simulation scenarios, just like the Matrix, right? Leading the company to uncover a chance to modify its procurement routes. Now picture this, the raw materials were actually arriving from Africa, had two potential routes, with each having their own environmental impact. So scenario one involved the raw materials coming in from Africa directly going all the way to Japan for processing. Scenario two, the raw materials would take its pit stop in Singapore, be processed, and then make its journey towards Japan. Now, in a surprising twist, scenario two emerged as a hero. Why? Because it had the potential of reducing emissions by 25% for the company. What's the secret, you might ask me, right? So it was in Singapore's lower emission factors for electricity, thanks to its reliance on a cleaner natural gas for its power source. Additionally, when the company processed their materials in Singapore, the weight of the materials trimmed down, resulting in lower emissions during transportation. So this example showcases the profound influence of Telescope's data precision and sustainability expertise on crafting friendlier supply chain and logistic management strategies. Both case studies left the clients beaming with satisfaction, leading to contract renewals and inclusion of more business units eager to manage and measure their carbon footprint. However, while the growth in the business was undoubtedly a cause for celebration, it posed an internal challenge, a data dilemma that begged to be addressed. So let's unravel the data dilemma, right? Just going to talk about it a little bit. Our story begins with a wall that's awash with data. But with this abundance comes its challenges. Imagine fragmented data scattered like puzzle pieces waiting to be assembled, while at the same time you have a range of data quality issues going on, right? As if this weren't enough, the data landscape is ever shifting or evolving. You have new regulatory framework, you have the concerns with privacy, and you also have compliance to deal with. Top that off, companies must also grapple with the financial burden of storage costs and take Herculean efforts for data migration, right? So to make matters more complex, sometimes we find that these companies are entangled with legacy infrastructure. But here's the real kicker, scalability. The solution that they implement must not only address their current woes, but also process the flexibility to grow and adapt as their needs evolve, right? It's basically like building a ship, not just for the smooth seas, but the stormiest waters. So Telescope had the same problem, and they sought our expertise to navigate through these treacherous waters. Their quest, they wanted to formulate a data management practice that not only met the industry standards, but also conquered the niche challenges of their domain. So to tackle this task, like Mehak mentioned, the implementation team embarked on a journey of discovery and learning. Why? We needed to grasp the fundamentals of GHG accounting. We also had to work with various data formats, and we had to extract critical information required for precise emission calculations. So we faced an additional challenge, right? Because we were not only comprehending a niche sustainability domain, but we also had to devise a solution that was capable of extracting information across diverse industries for across more than 15 categories for Telescope's clients. Our approach involved designing and creating standardized input templates to deal with the initial data acquisition process, right? We enhanced that data by bringing in more data lineage, metadata attributes, fostering version control, traceability, and repeatability across the board. So in a sense, we succeeded in bringing order to the data processing chaos that was going on. Through trial and error, we crafted a data management system that not only addressed data quality and privacy concerns, but also paved the way for seamless migration and facilitated robust governance practices. So This is a tale of the data dilemma, a challenge faced by many, but mastered by a few who embark on this epic journey. But around the time that we've been working with Terrascope, we also sought through other challenges that we did encounter, and we'll talk about how we effectively address them.
So one is often faced with a multitude of challenges while working at a startup. But for the purpose of today, we want to talk about these four: scaling teams and operations, taking the product to market, the trade-off being between being agile and stable, and a reluctance to adapt to new methods. Scaling teams and operations. So Terrascope was birthed as an idea by a 4 billion agriculture company that engaged Thoughtworks as their tech partner. Our job to bring their lofty vision to life. We had one of our tech leads join alongside and work with the founding team at Terrascope and led a team of brave young developers who worked very quickly to understand the complications of GHT guidelines and build the product. But as Terrascope scaled, the team also had to scale to accommodate for this high growth rate. With this, we ran into these cases, and their specific contexts varied and required tremendous research. As you can imagine, there was immense pressure on the implementation team at this time. Our processes were very ad hoc, and there was a lot of reliance on manual methods to clean and ingest data. This is when our team of rockstar data analysts came in and automated a lot of the processes around data transformation and ingestion. And as a result, we were able to really bring down the data transformation cycle by 80%. Moreover, implementation was a very cross-functional effort, working closely with the customer success, business development teams, and the product teams. So we had to really look at all of our workings with all of these different teams and look at our processes and set many of them up from scratch. So with the head of implementation, we worked to understand the team's capacity and how much time was being spent on each task to really see where we could cut down and automate things. With DevOps, we worked to set up a process to establish the customer data planes and also their bespoke security requirements. So this really also reduced the cycle time of the overall implementation just to set up their particular data plane on Terrascope. With product, we worked to triage the customer feedback that was coming in and developed a prioritization backlog, a prioritization framework that ensured that the right features, which a lot of the customers wanted and which had a great impact, were prioritized in the backlog. And finally, with the customer success teams, we worked to manage the implementation goals and timelines and communicated things in a timely fashion to Terrascope's clients. So in this manner, analyzing all of our different work streams with regard to implementation with a fine-tooth comb, we were able to optimize some of our processes, a lot of our processes, and optimize a lot of our processes in the way we approached customer implementations, and we were able to work as a very well-oiled machine that was working to delight Terrascope's customers.
All right. So Mehak touched upon taking product to market and the challenges that would involve. So let me tell you what the agility stability trade-off is all about, right? So Terrascope kickstarted initially as a nimble and agile startup. They had a niche platform that harnessed the capabilities of custom ML models to provide insights on carbon emissions for companies' activity data. So in the beginning, their operations were small. They were easily managed to meet customer demands. Terrascope's success grew rapidly, and their sales skyrocketed. With this surge in business, they encountered an unexpected challenge: the struggle to keep up with increasing demand for their service, right? So the root of the problem lay in the agility stability trade-off. So in the early days, Terrascope relied a lot on manual efforts to process companies' activity data before feeding it to the platform's ML models, right? It was a simple process because they just had a handful of customers. The data file volumes were low. Moreover, the data formats were not standardized. To distinguish themselves from their competitors, they made a bold promise to their customers. They said, hey, give us your data in any format, and we'll provide insights in a short span of time. This approach delighted customers. It meant less hassle of consolidating data, file conversions, and dealing with all that, right? Telescope would do all of that. So Telescope, however, found that the challenge emerged as their customer base grew rapidly, right? Data volume soared. The formats of the same files kept changing over time. So the initial agility that set them apart started to lead to chaos. So Telescope's analysts found themselves overwhelmed constantly, retracing their steps, struggling to maintain traceability in the ever-changing data formats that were provided to them. What was once a flexible and efficient system became a tangled web of manual effort, with analysts frantically adapting to process each new data file. Soon they realized they're at a crossroads, right? They needed to strike a balance between their initial agility and the stability required to meet the demands of their rapidly growing customer base. They understood that while adaptability was essential, stability in data processing and consistency in data formats was equally critical. To address this challenge, of course, Telescope brought in Thoughtworks to form the implementation team, a team of data scientists, engineers, and a project manager coupled with industry knowledge set together to design and create an automated data processing solution, help them standardize their data formats, and bring in some governance practices, right? Over time, Telescope successfully managed to transform their operations, having a more balanced approach towards this agility and stability. They continue to innovate and experiment, and adapt to their evolving customer needs, but this time with a solid foundation that could support their growth without chaos, right? So this lesson serves as an important reminder that striking the balance between agility and stability is essential for long-term success, especially when you have rapid growth on the cards. Recognizing the value of innovation, we were able to unite our efforts to create a high-quality data management system. This not only enhanced transparency for audits and other things, but actually reduced manual intervention by an impressive 70%. So, this path of bringing in stability wasn't necessarily easy, as there were a lot of challenges we needed to overcome internally to deliver the amazing results to their customers. So, which brings me to the next part, biting the bullet, right? So as the pace of change continued to accelerate, the team of analysts found themselves increasingly overwhelmed. The constant demand for adapting began to take a toll on their employees, also leading to concerns of a burnout. We started monitoring the hours required for generating insights for each customer, and we found an alarming trend. Each analyst was almost assigned 140 hours of work per week. Clearly, this was unsustainable. In the face of these formidable challenges, the founders were steadfast in their commitment of adopting more and more data analytics and AI-driven methods. Staying ahead of the curve was top priority, right? But recognizing the need to expand their current skill set, the Telescope team embarked on a journey of continuous learning and development. They invested in training programs, explored various data preparation tools, actively participated in workshops that thought workers had actually conducted for them. The road was filled with obstacles and frustration, but their unwavering determination to embrace new techniques kept moving them forward. At the same time, ThoughtWorks had to tailor their data management practices to align with the existing skill set and ensure that we could implement changes that would evolve into future enhancements. We also meticulously designed a well-structured transition and migration plan to help the team seamlessly adopt improved tools and services. So Telescope's journey was undeniably challenging, but yet it proved to be incredibly rewarding. Right? They overcame their initial skill limitations through unwavering dedication to continuous learning and development. As they navigated by fostering a culture of adaptability and experimentation, we could bring down operational efficiencies by an impressive 30% in a relatively short span of time. So the team overcame their initial hesitation, implementing data science techniques after they realized it had significant benefits, right? They were able to focus on what mattered most, creating a positive impact on the world and paving the path to achieve net zero emission. So this summary sort of encapsulates the vital lessons that we've gained over the period of time with our interaction with Telescope, right? While they've embraced some of these lessons, others continue to be a work in progress with ongoing efforts to refine their practices. Now, based on our interactions, we've realized that intervention is mainly required under these three themes, or we'd like to categorize them as three areas. So while initiating a collaboration or a partnership, it's essential to keep an eye out for these themes. Starting with internal organizational practices. You need to evaluate the flexibility and adaptability of the current practices. Are they proactive in addressing challenge when things go awry? By identifying these areas, you can develop a strategy that can help improve the organization's efficiencies. Highlight practices that align with their comfort zone and alter plans so it's easy for the employees to keep up, right? Likewise, consider team collaboration. Are they genuinely open to experimentation, or do they approach problem solving with the right context? Understanding these nuances helped us streamline communication and establish practices that help these team members also. And lastly, consider client-facing practices. Do they have a clear roadmap or growth strategy? Can they effectively communicate the potential of their growth of their products and services? So evaluating their existing practices and benchmarking them against similar companies or competitors, even if it's a niche domain, help us understand more about that industry. We identified areas for improvement and areas where they had a competitive advantage and worked around it. So recognizing these difficulties within these categories enables the creation of a strategic plan that helps to tackle and mitigate these issues effectively. Continuous improvements can be made to areas that require more attention while strengthening established practices. With that, let's boil it down to our key takeaways from this session.
So I'm going to shed some light on some of our key takeaways as we embarked on this journey with Terrascope. Knowing your customer, understanding, learning about their aspirations, their challenges, and their circumstances, and understanding that if they win, we win. With this lens, co-creating solutions that work for both and achieve great outcomes. Having a clear strategic roadmap. Embracing uncertainty is a part of the game at any startup. But however, we have to do our utmost to ensure that we are providing our expertise, our points of view, to move them along in their journey and to help them refine their own roadmap. Fail fast, learn fast, change fast. Things will almost never go according to plan. So be prepared to learn from it and adapt, aka pivot, a word I've come to embrace recently. So our data teams were looking for a tool to improve the streamlining of data before it was being ingested onto the platform. And for this, several solutions were trialed, were researched, but upon trialing it, which took a lot of time, it was concluded that none of them really suited the needs of the team composition at the point. And that's when we decided to go and develop a custom enabler. So even though we spent a lot of time researching the solutions, we were okay to let go given it wasn't the right thing to do. Process optimization. Setting up 0 to 1 processes at any startup is arguably both a bane and a boon. While it's fun to go out there and set some structure in the chaos, it only works when you communicate it at the right forum and at the right frequency to make sure a process is implemented. Further, it's important to identify your beacons, people who will help you make that change and carry others along with it to bring a process to life. So one of the things we did on our implementation, within the implementation team, was develop a time tracking tool that helped Terrascope keep account of the consulting hours that we were being spent for the clients and also to track team capacity. So as I mentioned earlier, we had to work alongside a lot of different teams, BD, customer success, and product. So developing this tool was not easy because our laundry list of requirements kept growing, and eventually we were able to double down on a Jira plugin and create a process that suited us. Once this was perfected, socializing it was key. We talked about it at our weekly cross-functional catch-ups, in our one-to-ones, documented it, and repeated it till it became a matter of habit for everyone to clock their time. Being open to feedback. It's important to look at things from a fresh pair of eyes and be open to feedback, and that's what helps you do things differently and achieve different and better outcomes. Terrascope was very receptive to feedback, and as were we. And with this openness, we were able to really really develop that custom data processing tool that I alluded to earlier, which allowed Terrascope to evolve over time and grow in the way they had envisioned. So this really helped us take the risk that we wanted to and develop something new. So yeah, so with this, we conclude our talk. And thank you for being a great audience.